The easiest way to ruin a $5,000 camera setup is with bad audio. It really doesn't matter how good your videos are, how good your lighting is, how amazing your YouTube setup is. If you have bad audio, people will simply get mad. If you record audio for YouTube videos, weddings, events, podcasts, you've probably heard of something like this happening to someone around you, and perhaps it even happened to yourself. You finish the recording, you sit down to edit, and then you realize that something went terribly wrong with the audio. And there you are, just sitting there with a project that is now completely unusable, trying to figure out what to do. And a few years ago, something called 32-bit float came out, and it changed everything. And now we have microphones such as this one that have not only incorporated the latest in connection possibilities, but also have built-in 32-bit float recording. This video is sponsored by Maono, and I will be showcasing their new PD500W hybrid. I'm not going to try to review this microphone because I simply don't have enough of a long-term time horizon with it, but I will show you around what it looks like, show you what it can do, and most importantly, what it sounds like so that you guys can decide for yourselves if this is the right microphone for you. One quick note before we go further, the unit that I'm testing here is a first batch sample that Maono shared with a small closed beta group. So this is not the final full production version, at least yet. Maono told me that they are actively optimizing the product based on feedback that they received before the final Kickstarter release. For example, they have already adjusted the mute button trigger position and added a mute lock function, something I complain about later on in this video, and they're also looking at improving the RGB light indicator behavior during internal recording so that it's less distracting. I've been using 32-bit float audio recording for years now, and it has changed everything for me. There are a lot of people out there that still haven't made the switch or haven't seen the benefit from it yet to justify the switch. This new microphone, however, is going to be a game-changing release, at least in that regard. Now, audio is extremely subjective. That's why there are thousands of different headphones out there that sound uniquely different, and mics are the same way. Some mics work better with some voices and with some tones than others, and people have different tonal preferences. So this is simply an option for you to consider. That being said, I made a video about the Maono PD200W a few months ago, and there is a reason that that microphone is still, to this day, I believe, #1 on the best-selling mic on Amazon list. And this new one is even better in very significant ways. The scary thing really isn't bad audio, it is bad audio that you don't discover until you are already home. Now, here is why 32-bit float works. I can take this mic and I can whisper just like this. And in post, I can bring my voice levels up to where you could still hear me, even if I'm whispering. Or I could sit here and yell into the microphone and it still will not distort my voice too much. Now, if I get super duper close, it will still clip, but even if you have someone that's going from this quiet right now to this loud, you can still recover most of the audio in post with 32-bit float. 32-bit float allows audio to be captured at all levels and recovered to normal levels without the typical sound problems. Now, the benefit of 32-bit float is that you don't have to guess. You don't have to wonder if your gain is set too high or too low. You don't have to ride your levels every single time someone gets a little bit louder or a little bit quieter. It makes recording audio dramatically more forgiving, and that's exactly what you want when you're trying to focus on simply making a video instead of sitting there and babysitting your audio. And it's not that the audio sounds better, it's just instead of constantly watching those tiny little meters that you see on the back of your camera screen, you can focus on the interview that you're shooting, or the wedding that you're shooting, or the project that you are trying to record. It's one less thing to worry about. The best way that I can describe 32-bit float is this. It's basically autofocus for audio. This is the Maono PD500W. It has built-in 32-bit float internal recording, but that's really just the beginning. You can connect it wirelessly when you want the freedom to move around. You can plug it into an XLR interface for the traditional studio setup. You can connect it via USB directly to your computer without an interface at all, or you can plug it in straight into your camera and simplify your entire filming setup. One important thing to mention is that the 32-bit float recording I've been demonstrating is available when you are using the microphone's internal recording mode. So I have it just sitting on a desk, no wires, no plugs at all. If you are recording with this microphone into a USB-C, XLR, or directly into your camera, you are going to be using those devices' formats instead. So if your goal is that extra layer of protection that a 32-bit float audio recording provides, you'll want to use the onboard recorder. Personally, that's how I would use it if I was shooting a wedding, if I was doing interviews, or if I had a shoot where I absolutely did not want to risk losing the audio. It even supports timecode, which is something you normally don't see on a microphone. So if you've ever had to sync multiple cameras and separate audio in post, you already know how much time that can save. So for a podcast, it can be an XLR microphone. For live streaming, it's a USB microphone. For YouTube, it's a wireless microphone. For filmmaking, it's an onboard recorder with timecode support. It's almost like a Swiss Army knife for creators. Instead of buying a dedicated podcast microphone, a wireless system, and a field recorder, and separate accessories to power and support all of those, this combines a surprising amount of that functionality into one device. That means fewer things to carry around with you, fewer batteries to charge, fewer cables to forget at home and have to figure out, and much simpler audio in terms of setup overall. And this entire video that you've been listening to has been recorded on this microphone internally. So if you enjoy the sound or like the sound that's coming out of it, well, there's a reason why these are some of the best-selling microphones out on the market. If you don't like messing with sound processing afterwards, so if you're like me, you can also use built-in tools such as compression, limiting, EQ, adjustable noise reduction. But the real key here is that 32-bit float. It's that don't worry about your audio again, that is the highlight. Now, interestingly, Maono even added what they call AI AGC, or adaptive gain control, which actively tries to keep levels under control when you are recording with it. Another cool feature I want to mention is the built-in AI workflow. Once you've finished recording, the software can automatically transcribe your audio, it can generate summaries, it can even translate your audio into other languages. So for creators, that's pretty useful, whether you're pulling quotes for a video description or creating captions or finding specific moments in a super long video or super long interview, for example, or even repurposing content into blog posts or social media clips. Having a transcript already generated can save a surprising amount of time after the shoot. In terms of price, Maono mics are extremely affordable. The PD200W is under $100 US on Amazon. This model, because of the more high-end features, particularly that 32-bit float, is going to be as low as $349 US at launch on Kickstarter. For reference, that's less than what I paid for just my 32-bit float recorder without any microphone or cables or a micro SD card. And can I record wirelessly with it? No. Can I record directly to a camera? No. This really isn't competing against microphones. It's competing against your entire audio kit or the other options out there. You're not just buying a microphone, you're buying a recorder, a wireless system, a USB microphone, and an XLR microphone all in one pretty sleek little package. For example, you could go out and get the Shure SM7DB. A lot of people have that microphone and use it. It's $500. Then you add a $300 recorder. That's $800 total, and you will still not be able to use it wirelessly or direct to a camera, and it won't have more than half of the built-in features that this microphone has. Now, I try not to give a one-size-fits-all recommendation ever with any of my videos, so please compare this microphone and listen to the audio from it and compare it to others when you guys are shopping around, because again, it might sound better to some than it does to others. From a strictly feature standpoint, they have packed this mic with everything that any content creator or filmmaker or even a professional would ever want. If you are a videographer, it's interesting to step back and take a look at the scene that we have. We have really solid, reliable cameras now from an autofocus standpoint and from a quality control standpoint. Storage has become very reliable, but audio has always been a little bit iffy, and I think that's because the camera companies aren't progressing as fast as they are, at least in that department. That's why I think that these mics are kind of interesting. It's not that you need more features or 7 different ways to rig up a microphone, but it's one less thing that you guys have to worry about. It's cheap insurance for your setup. Whether you go out and buy this microphone or you buy another one, I would encourage you guys to think about getting something that does record 32-bit flow internally or through a recorder that does 32-bit flow, because that is a game changer and something that I'm never going back to not having. Now, is this microphone perfect? Well, no. This one is a pre-release sample and the software really hasn't been released. It's in beta version right now. So I've had a couple of issues with syncing up audio and getting it to do the things that I want it to do. And there are a couple of lights here that you have to kind of memorize. So you have to know that you press the record button once and it starts the recording. You hold it for 3 seconds and it stops the recording. You have to be careful of this touch sensitive mute button on the top, because if that's glowing orange, it looks reddish and it seems like it might be recording, but in fact it's not. That's the mute button. And there are a bunch of other lights that indicate different various levels of, let's say, the AI noise cancellation on this side. So it is something that you will have to most likely read a couple of pages of the user manual to get used to. But once you memorize the lights and what they all mean, I think it's just like any other microphone, pretty straightforward to use. Now the question of this video is, will this be the end of ruined audio? Probably not. Someone will still forget to hit the record button, but for everyone else, we are getting pretty super duper close. If you guys are interested in backing the Kickstarter or checking out prices or whatever the early bird sales are, links are down in the description. If there are any discount codes that I can find, I will link them down below as well. And let me know what your go-to audio setup is these days, because I am curious and it's one of those things that I'm constantly trying to improve on this channel. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more and have a nice day. Bye-bye.